Welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us today. We've experienced at least 1.5, if not 2.5 seasons today here in our area after thunderstorms blew through last night. It was still rainy this morning, and it was literally almost 60 degrees when I dropped my daughter off for work at 9 o'clock. And then when I picked her up this afternoon, it was a good 20 plus degrees cooler and spitting out. Cold rain. Cold rain.
Well, now it's like snowish type falling from the sky. So
it'd be really fun going home tonight. Yes.
It's going to be awesome. It was not what I was in. I mean, I knew that it was going to be colder, but, I walked into work without a coat on, that kind of a thing. It was like 60-something degrees.
I had shorts on this morning, Vince.
Yeah.
Shorts.
Yeah.
Outside, and it was comfortable.
I imagine that it was. And then walking out, getting pelted in the face with some, solid rain, if you will, was not really what I was anticipating or enjoying.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yep. We are here. Yeah. I was sitting there last night, kind of finished, like I was about to meander off to bed. I was kind of wrapping things up, and all of a sudden my phone starts going off, and the like the brrr, when the tornado warning. Yep. And we sat there, actually laid there. We don't have a basement, but we were square in the middle of the tornado zone. It was moving from the southwest of South Bend, Mishawaka, and right where they had the square drawn up, it was like an obtuse kind of, so I don't know exactly what it was, the shape, but you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
But right where they had it, and I was like, I looked at my wife and I said, we are right where she just circled her hand right there.
Well, yeah, because you guys are more south than we are.
Yeah, and it was south of the bypass, and then it finally, the tornado watch expired.
Yeah,
and you could see on the screen this little hook that they kept talking about that could turn into a swirl sort of dissipated, and it was just heavy rain.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Based on what happened about a week ago, with what happened in Michigan with the tornado and things like that, I feel like they overdid it a little bit this time around, but you never can be too
sorry,
sure.
I think.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the first thing I was thinking of, was all that stuff that did go on.
I never heard any tornado sirens during that particular situation, and that was, for me, that was closer to us than where you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but they had the sirens on 2 different times, last night. But, we spent some time in the basement last night just for fun. And, my wife's like, turn on the TV. So I turn on the TV and I'm like, USA and Italy. That's what we're going to watch. I go, you guys all have phones. You can watch the weather on your phones. I said, we're watching baseball.
Yes. Joe said an inch of snow in Omaha this morning and 50 degrees now. So they've got the complete opposite of what we've got here. So that means it'll probably be 50 here tomorrow. I don't know. I mean, that's where the storms come, right? When the cold air meets the warm air, that's where the storms all pop up.
That's what they tell us.
It is Mailbag Day. So if you're watching the show live on either the Irish Breakdown YouTube channel or the Sports Radio WSBT YouTube channel, you can send us your questions. Get them in now in the chat. There's a couple in there. Let's just start off with that USA Italy and the whole debacle that turned into with I guess this shows why radio TV guys like you just shouldn't coach, right?
Man,
bad day for Mark DeRosa, the
yeah,
USA manager, whose day job, of course, he played Major League Baseball, but his day job now is working for MLB Network. And he goes on MLB Network yesterday morning. He's like, we want to win this game, even though our ticket's already punched to the quarterfinals.
Ooh.
Pan to, they did not have their ticket punched to the quarterfinals, and they lost to Italy.
It's bittersweet in the D'Addario household because, Italy would be my second team that I would root for when it comes to the WBC. And of course, all these guys that are starting for Italy, I saw a tweet out there. Every one of them was born in either America or Canada.
They're still Major League Baseball players.
Right.
Like you've literally got it. There's a couple Kansas City Royals actually who are playing for them. Jack Caglione and Vinny Pasquantino, a couple I mean, you got to love those names, right?
I-
Jack Leone and Vinny Pasquantino. It's like, if you could change your last name to Pasquantino, I'm going scale of 1 to 10. You would change it right now if you could.
I feel like I don't know what the rules are, but if I had any kind of talent whatsoever, I feel like I could have played for a Team Italy. I think I'd have been all right. I don't know how many generations away you need to be and things like that. Those uniforms were sweet. Those Italian uniforms last night, the blue with Italia across the front, like,
Uh-huh.
man. If anybody wants to send me a present, that would be it right there, extra large. But no, it was a hard game to watch. We can talk about the game itself, but as far as the DeRosa part of it, look, I like Mark DeRosa when he played for the Cubs. I was a fan. He's a lunch pail kind of guy. That kind of a deal. The rules of the WBC are not complicated, and understanding what you need to advance is not complicated.
But it's funny because I just saw a tweet before we went on, and someone said if you wanted to know the tiebreaker rules for here it is. All the Team USA manager had to do was ask a travel baseball parent what needed to happen to qualify for bracket play.
Right.
Literally. That's like every weekend. That's what a travel baseball parent is going through. Okay, what do we have to do to get out of this now? And then yeah.
Somebody tweeted, if this was a travel baseball team, then Bryce Harper and Bregman's parents would be in the stands plotting to make their own team next year because they were sitting on the bench in an important game. I was like, yeah, that sounds accurate.
Oh man.
Like he played a second shortstop at third base. He played the second catcher.
Bryce Harper and Alex Bregman. Both.
Got Goldschmidt, excuse me.
They had only played 3 games. Like,
right.
Rest now?
It was like it felt like, well, these guys are on the team. We better get them some playing time in this game that doesn't matter. So let's just play everybody.
Yeah.
It's
literally like the travel baseball. Okay,
yes.
Now we're in the consolation side and we don't have a chance. So let's just empty the bench now. Go ahead.
Right. And the fact that it took until the 8th inning to kind of realize, well, wait a minute. I've got all this talent on the bench. Maybe I should get him in the game, and maybe we get some runs on the board. Now, to the USA's credit, they were down 8-0, and they ended up scoring 6. And they had an opportunity.
They scored those 6 because it's not run differential that decides this whole thing.
It's like total runs, and total runs given up too.
Right.
And right now, so basically, what it comes down to, and again, we can talk about the game specifically, but they either need Mexico to win, right? No, they need Italy to win. Excuse me.
They need Italy to win. If Italy wins,
that's it.
That's it. Then the USA gets into the quarterfinals.
That's the easiest, most cleanest way to get in.
Right. But if Mexico wins, if Mexico beats Italy tonight, then Mexico needs to score 5 or more runs.
Right.
So
basically, high scoring.
As long as Mexico has like a 5-run first inning, as soon as Mexico gets to 5 runs, it's over, no matter what. Because then at that point, the outcome doesn't matter. Whether Italy wins or Mexico wins, as long as Mexico gets to 5. Are you confident, though, that these two teams aren't going to collude just to keep the U.S. out of this whole thing?
It's if you are a baseball fan and you're rooting for Team USA, despite the debacle that was last night, now you're going to watch Mexico and Italy tonight. I mean, you might as well to find out what's going on.
They moved it from like Tubi or something like that to FS1. They put it on FS1 because now people actually are interested and are going to want to see it. There was a little bit of controversy with the video of DeRosa being on MLB Network, though, that interview that he did, as Jesse, shout out to Jesse, watching today and shooting us a question. He said MLB Network tried to remove the interview. So I was reading about this today. Apparently what they did, so, DeRosa incorrect because the interview was yesterday morning, well before the game took place. So DeRosa goes on, and again, he says, well, we've basically got this thing locked up. We're in the quarterfinals no matter what. We do want to win, but we're in the quarterfinals. So I guess what MLB did, they had because it was on MLB Network, the video was up on MLB's website, but they took it down during the day because they didn't want to confuse people and have them thinking that the U.S. actually had this thing locked up. So they took it down, but they eventually did put it back up because obviously the USA lost, and there's all this, sort of basically they want the clicks and the views on the
Sure.
video because it became of interest as soon as USA lost that game last night.
Well, and I can speak from very recent experience that no matter even if you take a video down, it's still going to be out there.
Yeah,
it's still going to get circulated.
A lot of other people sharing it in the meantime. That's
Correct.
exactly right.
Yeah. So
but I mean it's not just DeRosa. You've got a general manager of the team as well, and
you've got all kinds of people that are involved in this. Like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand what you're doing. You got a bench coach, you got assistant coaches, you got a pitching coach, you've got all these different people that are involved. You've got a bunch of guys that aren't even in uniform that are involved. All of these different things. And if you see this roster or the starting lineup that's put out by Mark DeRosa, you think is it just a bunch of yes men? Somebody just raised their hand, but like, do we is that really what we want to do? Or
Mark DeRosa is Ivy League educated. He went to Penn.
Well,
Michael Hill, the general manager of Team USA, is Ivy League educated. He went to Harvard, and none of these guys could figure out whether or not they were actually in the quarterfinals or not. It apparently took them losing to figure that out.
And the level of baseball that was being played last night was very low. I mean, it was pass balls were scoring runs, and trying to one hop a double play from the pitcher. I mean, he just threw it right into the ground. Like, it was a terrible, terrible throw, and multiple pass balls in this game. Like, that just, I mean, spiking them into the ground. I mean, the catcher didn't even have a prayer, but you didn't even have your best catcher in. Like, just unbelievable. You don't see in Major League Baseball, you don't see runs being scored on pass balls. Like, that's not a thing. It's a thing in travel ball. It's a thing in high school ball. It's not a thing in Major League Baseball. And it's a bunch of Major League Baseball players out there, Sean. Like, how?
But apparently they were up all night partying because they thought that they were into the quarterfinals. So it's like, let's just drink it up now.
I get that. It shouldn't have happened. You should not be out partying.
They're grown men.
But like, you made the roster on Team USA. You are on Team USA. Even if you put your backups in, you should still be able to beat Team Italy. You just should. Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying.
But but again, at the same time, it's like, okay, so maybe the starters weren't all in there, but the starting pitcher is like, he was going to give up runs no matter who the guys were.
100%.
Right?
Yep. So absolutely.
And again, like what this team, I remember like years and years ago, Mike Scioscia, I think when they first had baseball in the Olympics, Scioscia was playing, not Scioscia, Piazza. Mike Piazza
was playing for Italy.
Was playing for Italy.
Yeah.
And that's, again, that's what this is. Like, Italy, even though it's Italy, these are still American-born guys. It's like, oh, my great-grandpa was born in Italy, so now I get to play for Team Italy. Like, these are still Americans. So at the very minimum, it's kind of the equivalent of, say, the Miami Marlins, beating the Yankees. It's like in a series, even the worst team can win every now and then.
It's just, you don't get a series, though. That's the problem.
No, I know, but I mean, it's right.
Like, I understand what you're saying.
Is what I'm saying.
And a lot of it's based on pitching and things like that. And they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn the first 7 innings of this game. Or 6 innings of the game. That part of the problem. They could not hit. And it was ugly that they couldn't hit. And they finally started putting the bat on the ball, but it was too little too late because you gave up 8 runs. And like I said, a handful of those runs you shouldn't have given up. Like, I get a home run and I get, actual baseball play. But like the pass balls, all of these mistakes that were made by Team USA, that you can't make those kinds of mistakes. You just can't. And if they hadn't made those kinds of mistakes, they win that game. 6 runs is enough to win that game.
Should be.
But I mean, it was 8-0. They were down, Sean. 8.
So again, the U.S., Italy, and Mexico play tonight. If Italy wins, the USA is in. But if Mexico wins and scores 5 or more runs, then the USA also gets in. If Mexico beats Italy and scores 4 or fewer, and this is in 9 innings. If it goes to extra innings, I guess the run thing
doesn't matter.
But if Mexico beats Italy and scores 4 or fewer runs, then Team USA is eliminated. So again, just pull for Mexico to score 5 runs, then no matter what the outcome is, USA is
or
in.
Italy to win.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. As long as Mexico scores 5 runs, USA is in, regardless of
regardless of whether they win or lose. I got you.
Right.
So we want high scoring. We want the fireworks.
Over under on this game, 7.5 when I checked on FanDuel.
That's actually kind of high for a baseball game. So,
it is.
I mean, I'll be watching. I'll have it on in the background while I'm cutting up podcasts. Like, I'll have it on. Let's go. Let's watch it.
I thought you were about to say cutting up pie. I thought maybe you had something really cooking there at the house.
That would be fantastic. I think it's leftover night. So it is what it is.
Lasagna?
Actually, really good pasta and chicken with a red sauce and all kinds of cheese. It was really good the first time around. We'll see how if it's good the second time around. I'm sure.
Sounds delightful.
Hey, a little pasta while I'm watching Team Italy. Let's go.
All right. Salty Virginia Peanuts is not here today, it doesn't look like. So anyone who's usually in the YouTube chat who doesn't usually get a question in, get those questions in, and we will answer them on Mailbag Night.
Before we get into the questions, I want to do a quick shout out.
Okay.
There's a young man, Discovery Middle School. His name is Jack. He's an 8th grader. Apparently, he's a huge fan of the show. And through word of mouth, aka my child, I was told I would give him a shout out. So I wanted to give a shout out to Jack, one of our biggest fans. He listens all the time. So, Jack, appreciate you, man.
Back at you, Jack. Action, Jack. Okay, Andre was the first one here tonight.
Yes.
Submitted his question in the YouTube chat. Andre is fired up because people on the CFP Nation podcast apparently said Notre Dame's schedule, I think he meant to say 2026. The football schedule is soft/weak. He said, I was a little annoyed with them saying that Notre Dame has a very weak or soft schedule. Do we consider Notre Dame's schedule to be weak/soft?
It is obviously not murderer's row. I think we can all agree on that. Okay. I wouldn't say it's all full of cupcakes because, again, when these schedules are made and all of these different things, like, it's not generally going to be the case, right? So it's a schedule that you would like to be a little bit more challenging, but it's got a couple marquee games on there. And they've got 2 non-Power 4 teams, one of which is Navy.
Navy and Rice.
Navy and Rice. And so, I would say that they have put more effort into their schedule than some other schools. And there was another starred comment by Stymie. He says he'd say the schedule is at minimum on par with the 25 Indiana Hoosier schedule. And I would agree with that.
Say that. Because I pulled up 2 schedules as soon as I saw this question that we can compare Notre Dame's to. And so here's Notre Dame's schedule. Just a quick refresher for anyone who might not remember. Wisconsin, Rice, Michigan State, at Purdue, at North Carolina, Stanford, at BYU, Navy, Miami, Boston College, SMU, at Syracuse. Now, again, like you're looking at that and you hear that, and it's like, man, there's not a ton of teeth to it. But at the same time, as you said, there's only 2 non-Power 4 teams on there. You've got a team that went to the college football playoff semifinals last year in Miami. You've got another team, BYU, that, like Notre Dame, just missed the playoffs. And you also have SMU, who was respectable last year and is just a year removed from going to the playoffs themselves. Of course, they went to the first 12-team playoffs. So there's Notre Dame's schedule. Here's Miami's schedule. At Stanford, Florida A&M, at Wake Forest, Central Michigan, at Clemson, Florida State, Pittsburgh, at North Carolina, at Notre Dame, Duke, Virginia Tech, Boston College. Like, is that
also not murderer's row?
Is that any tougher than Notre Dame's schedule? I don't think so.
Right.
That's Miami's schedule.
And obviously, they've got Miami has an ACC schedule similar to what Notre Dame's is. And so then, you look at the non-conference games and it's just like, really?
Yeah.
Florida
A&M's an FCS. Notre Dame's not playing an FCS.
Correct.
And then you got, Then you got a group of 6 in Central Michigan, and then you've got a very comparable schedule otherwise. Like
Yep.
Clemson is a toss-up as to what, like, outside of Notre Dame, Clemson, you would say, is the second best team on Notre Dame's schedule. There's probably a pretty good drop into who the number 3 team is on Miami's schedule. And really, it's going to be a coin toss as to how good Clemson is after the year that they just had.
Yeah.
So, but nobody's ripping Miami's schedule. And
Of
in
course
fact,
not.
Brian Driscoll, was in like that whole debate a couple weeks back about who's got the softer schedule. I mean, are you going to look at Miami's schedule and say there's more teeth there than there is with Notre Dame's? And we've brought this up a few times because you talk about how far in advance the schedules get made. I mean, the Wisconsin now, obviously they don't look that great. Wisconsin was scheduled like 8 years ago, this, well before COVID even happened. And Wisconsin was still a pretty good, like 9, sometimes 10 win team when this series was scheduled. And obviously they played the first game in this schedule a few years back in 2021. And now here it is because of COVID. This was supposed to be played in 2020, but it got pushed to this year because of COVID shutting everything down and schedules being all flipped around and everything else. And it's like, you can't control who Wisconsin is 8 years later. I'm sorry.
Right. Exactly correct.
Yeah. But here's Indiana's schedule to the point. Okay, so they play North Texas, a team that was good last year, but they just lost their head coach to Oklahoma State, and more than half of their roster followed him.
Specifically their quarterback that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly. So you don't expect North Texas to be very good this year. Then they've got Howard. There's your FCS once again, because Indiana loves to put the FCS schools on the schedule. Then you've got Western Kentucky, Northwestern, at Rutgers, at Nebraska, Ohio State, at Michigan, Minnesota, USC, at Washington, Purdue. Now, again, is that any tougher than Notre Dame's schedule?
Well, look, that is I would say that's a murderer's row compared to what they had last year.
Fair.
Like their last year's schedule, just for those who don't remember, they played Old Dominion, and by the way, almost blew it. Kennesaw State, Indiana State, Illinois, at Iowa. So they didn't even leave the state of Indiana until the end of September, by the way. At Oregon, that was a big game, and they won by 10. Michigan State, UCLA, at Maryland, at Penn State, which was terrible last year, and they won by 3. And on that last second toe tap in the back of the end zone, if you remember. Then they had Wisconsin at home and then at Purdue. Like, that schedule was a joke.
Yeah.
And they won the national championship and went undefeated for the first time ever. And they're considered one of the best teams ever, right? Because nobody's talking about the schedule. They just went and they won all their games, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, once you get into the playoff, you can't complain at that point. But they were the number 1 seed. They beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game.
Right, 100%. And then, look, and then they earned it from that on, obviously. They beat Ohio State, then they beat Alabama, then they beat Oregon, then they beat Miami. They earned it at that point. But to get to that point was not exactly tough. So, again, I give them all the credit. They won all their games. That is impressive. And then they won all the rest in the playoff. But that's the trend, is teams aren't scheduling tough, man.
And that's part of the deal now. You're exactly right. And we've brought it up a million times on this show that the Big Ten wants to keep saying, well, we're the Big Ten. We've got all these great teams. We've got 3 consecutive national champions. Okay, but your schedules aren't that tough. There's basically 2 tough games a year.
Yep.
And the rest are just like what we just went through there for Indiana. And it's like that across the board, with the exception, I will give Ohio State and even Michigan credit, because like Michigan has played Oklahoma in the last couple of years, and Ohio State obviously has played Texas. They've played Notre Dame. Like those 2 for the last few years have been the 2 who have not been afraid to go out and schedule tough outside the conference. So I'll give Michigan and Ohio State complete credit for that. The rest of them, Penn State, Indiana, whoever else on down, you can't say the same for them. So people can say, well, Notre Dame's schedule is soft. Well, it's not really soft. It's just not necessarily tougher than like the run-of-the-mill Big Ten, but it's also not weaker than the run-of-the-mill Big Ten because, again, Notre Dame's not going to put any FCS schools on their schedule. And, look at both Miami, and you can lump the ACC in there as well because even the ACC gets criticized for their weak teams. But again, like, there's really not that much difference in comparison when you're looking at it because they're doing this strategically. You've got a couple games with some teeth on the schedule, and then other than that, it's going to be a lot of very winnable games if you're a true national championship contender. And Indiana, Miami are going to consider themselves contenders.
Yep.
So is Notre Dame, and they've all got very comparable schedules. So to say Notre Dame is weak or soft by comparison, no, I completely disagree with that.
I mean, and look, Notre Dame right now in the preseason polls, at least whatever this website is using, they play 3 teams in the top 25. They play 11 ranked BYU, 8 ranked Miami, and 17th ranked SMU. So you got 3 ranked teams on there. And obviously, who knows what's going to happen throughout the season if somebody else is going to jump in the rankings
that's
or
the
whatever.
Thing.
But
the averages say that there's probably going to be a couple other teams that end up being potentially ranked at some point during the season, or at least considerably. Because, like, look at Boston College as an example. 2 years ago, Boston College in year 1 under Bill O'Brien was a bowl team. Last year, they were horrible. Like, one year to the next, there's a lot of volatility. And you have that, obviously, in a transfer portal era. And, like, even North Carolina actually got better as the year went on. I don't know exactly what they're going to be this year, but who's to say in year 2 under Bill Belichick exactly what they're going to be?
Well, and you've got a new coaching staff at Michigan State. Who's to say what they're going to look like? I mean, just kind of across the board with all the Stanford's got a new head coach. Anyway, so long story short, I don't think their schedule is any weaker than a lot of other schedules. Is the point that we're making, and a lot of teams are trending in that direction because they just saw IU do what they did against that schedule, and they went undefeated, and they were the number 1 seed in the playoff. What's the incentive? What's the incentive for packing your schedule, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and obviously that feeds into the hand of the people who are like, well, if Notre Dame doesn't join a conference, they're going to have a tough time scheduling. That whole conversation. So far, that has not been an issue, but you can see with the way everybody is scheduling at this point, how it could potentially become an issue. Again, it's all about the almighty dollar, and they want Notre Dame there to make the money and, those kinds of things. And that still exists.
But the almighty dollar also plays into whether or not they get into the playoffs. And that's one of the things that some of these teams are going to have to balance, like USC as an example. They're going to have to balance we every other year we get a big sellout for Notre Dame USC, but obviously they think that there is more to gain by giving themselves a better chance to make it into the playoffs, whether they legitimately have that chance or not.
So we'll have to see.
Let's take a break. When we come back, more Notre Dame football mailbag. We'll answer some more Notre Dame football questions and questions on some other topics as well. That's on the way. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It's Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com. I'm Sean Stiers. I just realized this is Vince's first day on the show this week. We've been texting, haven't?
I was on the second half on Monday.
For half of the show on Monday.
Well, and I can get overshadowed by Bobby, and I understand that.
I mean, don't we all get overshadowed by Bobby?
I mean, he's a pretty
magnetic
guy.
Personality, and he
just... I was dead serious. Every single Monday I come on the show, I forget that he's on the second hour, and it is a genuine surprise every time.
Hey, Bobby's here.
Hey, it's Bobby. I forgot.
Oh. Do you know what this? Look at. I don't want to say something. See Tommy's comment.
I do.
Do you know what he's talking about?
None.
I don't either. All right.
Yeah. Sorry.
Don't have to worry about that.
Sorry,
we got Notre Dame hockey coming up tonight, by the way, at 7:00 in Ann Arbor. Notre Dame and Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. 7:00 is when the puck drops. The pregame show will start at 6:45. They've won 3 straight. All of them in overtime after an overtime tie against Penn State before that as well. They're just OT rolling right now.
It'd be a heck of an upset to take out the Wolverines, but I can think of no other school I'd rather take out an upset. So, go Irish.
Mini Miracle on Ice.
Hey, I'm here for it. I am here for it, and y'all can be here for it as well. All you got to do is just stay tuned because we're going to take you right up to it and right into that game.
I was actually thinking that now that I say the Miracle on Ice, maybe it's why. With this whole Mark DeRosa thing, like, can you imagine if Miracle on Ice in 1980, if they had beaten the Soviets and they're just like, oh, we just won the gold medal,
and then they lost.
Yeah, no, we don't even have to show up for the next game.
Yeah, I mean, and I realized they had stumbled against Mexico recently in Team USA history, and I think they had lost 3 in a row to them. Like, okay, it's a big deal to beat Mexico, I suppose. Like, good for you. It didn't feel like a let's go out and party scenario to me. So that kind of took me by surprise. And then the fact that Mark DeRosa in his press conference, like, yeah, the guys went out and they were dragging. Is that really the brag that you want to have in your press conference?
I don't think Herb Brooks would have been selling that.
No, it was just a weird, I don't know, tone deaf is what it sounded like to me. And that's not good going into your last game. And
it just, again, when you're the manager and you try to play off the fact that you went on national TV and said, we've already locked up a spot. And then you try to backtrack it. Oh, we actually knew. I just, I was with my buddies on TV, Matt Veskurgen and Harold Reynolds. I just slip of the tongue or whatever. Come on, dude. You're not, you just sat with the biggest stars in the game. Right. You thought you were in, you were completely wrong, and there's just no way to backtrack around it. Now,
just own it. I'd have more respect for him if he just owned it. Yeah. Like be like, hey, I thought 3 wins we're gonna get us in. That you know what? That's on me. That kind of thing. Just own it, man. Like, and it wouldn't be as much of a backlash, I don't think. But could we talk about PCA? Pete Crow Armstrong?
Okay, he's your guy.
Heck of a game he had. First of all, again, bias. I think he should have been the automatic starting center fielder on the team.
Who was starting ahead of him?
It was a guy. It's going to show my baseball non-knowledge. It was a guy I've never heard of. I'm going to have to look it up. But PCA yesterday, he gets the start. I think he gets the second start.
Pete Crow Armstrong, for those not in the know.
Fair. So Pete Crow Armstrong gets the start. He's batting 9th, which I don't have a huge problem with. My strategy usually is I would like to have like a second leadoff hitter down in the 9 hole. And I think he meets that criteria. 2 home runs, a 3-run shot, and then a solo shot. He's solely responsible for 4 of the 6 runs that Team USA had. I mean, he was their offense last night. He did everything he could. He didn't have an opportunity to have any amazing defensive plays or anything like that because they out-hit Team Italy. I think they doubled them up in the hit category. They weren't exactly hitting the ball all over the place. Just Team USA was just throwing the ball all over the place, which allowed Italy. But Pete Crow Armstrong had a heck of a game. He's having a heck of a series, actually, because he had a home run the last time he played as well. So, should be the starter. Just saying.
It sounds like it. I was trying to go back here and see. Let me see who was. Is it Braxton Buxton? Is that who was?
Yes, that is exactly who it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Who does he play for? Do you
I
know?
can't remember off the top of my. I don't.
Okay.
Jesse, with his encyclopedic knowledge,
I know.
would know. But
let's see. I'm going to look it up here. But yeah, he was starting, and it made it sound like they kind of he plays for Minnesota. It made it sound like they kind of asked him last minute, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll play." And then he was kind of the de facto starting center fielder. I was like, I don't know about that one, but Pete Crow Armstrong's making a case. So if they do make it into the knockout round, I think that he's got a shot at playing some more. I would hope, but I guess we'll
got to get there first.
Yeah,
get there first.
That's going to be interesting.
Again, you need either Italy to win or Mexico to score at least 5 runs if they end up winning.
Helpless. Team USA is sitting at home right now, helpless. Like they have no control over what happens tonight and their destiny.
Just hope for a slugfest. As long as it's a slugfest, that'll get old Team USA in. So game starts at 7:00. It'll be on FS1 tonight. Let's go back to the mailbag. Joe wants to know, which line are you most concerned with, offense or defense?
That's a great question because I think both lines have the opportunity to be strengths on both sides of the ball. And so it's difficult to say which one I'm more worried about. I would say, I'll just say the offensive line because, the past couple of years they've dealt with some season-ending injuries and some things that have rocked the starting lineup for the offensive line, which is, it's more, the continuity is more important on the offensive line than it is on the defensive line because obviously on D, you're rotating and you probably need, 8 to 10 guys on the defensive line if you're going to be, a solid to really good. And on the offensive line, you just need the 5 guys to start every game. Like that would be amazing if they could make that happen. And so I'm worried about the injuries and that has nothing to do with coaching. It's just dumb luck. Some of it, guys get rolled up on or, whatever the case may be. But if they can stay healthy, this has the opportunity to be one of the best offensive lines in the country. But that's my worry, is that they're going to stay healthy because they haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, see, for me, I think concern might be a little bit of a strong word. I don't know exactly how I would label it. I actually, because of what you're describing, and when you look at the way the last 2 years have played out, they went to a national championship game with a patchwork offensive line with guys across the board who were injured and they had to plug holes, and they still went to a national championship game with that. And then last year, again, not quite as injury riddled, but you still had a couple guys, significant guys who were injured, and you still ran for over 200 yards a game, and you only gave up 12 sacks last year. And the guy who everyone has been screaming about at left tackle, Anthony Knapp, sounds like he might actually be moving in, which is what, kind of what a majority of people seems like they have wanted the last couple of years, might actually be moving inside to guard, which means you might have even more size and talent out there at left tackle now. We'll get a glimpse of that next week when spring practice begins. So the way they've been able to plug in those gaps and still play at a pretty high level, that's what actually gives me confidence in that line. I think again, concern is a little bit of a strong word, but just because we have a new position coach coming in on the defensive side and a lot of new faces coming in on that side, and there are still guys, like Bryce Young, for example. We all went into last year, maybe it was unfair, but we all went into last year with super high expectations of him, and he didn't quite hit him. When we all still feel like, there's another level for those guys to go to. And so I think, again, concern is a little bit strong, but I think my question is more with the defensive side, just because of the different variables in play, new bodies, coach. So you're going to have some new philosophy and the whole thing. So I think that I just have more questions with the defensive side than the offensive side. I think at the end of the day, because of the talent in that room, that they have recruited on the offensive line, I think ultimately they'll be okay. I just have more questions on the defensive side.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I think now with the offensive line that they are, that's in pencil that we think is going to be, running out there. You got Will Black at left tackle, Anthony Knapp at left guard, Ashton Craig at center, and Sullivan Absher at right guard, and Gerby Lambert at right tackle. There's more potential. The scary P word, right? There's more potential with this offensive line than I think there has been in recent memory. Right. There have been guys that were like, okay, we know what we're going to get with some of these guys. And, again, then you throw in the wild card of Charles Jagasaw and what he could be. I mean, right now he's injured. Is he going to play? I think if he's healthy, he'll battle at right guard. But if you slot him in at right guard in between Gerby Lambert and Ashton Craig, like, all of a sudden, and then obviously Anthony Knapp's going to his third year starting, and then you got Will Black, who's just bursting with potential. You're very excited about what this offensive line could be.
Yeah.
But I'm just nervous about the injuries. You've got Ashton Craig, who's gone down twice with season-ending injuries. You've got, Charles Jagasaw, who's never started a regular season game, which is mind-blowing at this point. Like I said, if those guys can stay healthy, this can be one heck of an offensive line. There's just too many question marks for me. But I like where you're coming from with the defensive line. There's still some questions over there too.
Yeah. I mean, I've got confidence in both of them, but I think it's just, again, I think the questions are, to me now, in fairness, like I remember saying I was a guest of one of the Miami writers on their podcast before we did, he came on my show, and then I turned around and did his show. And I think I said what a lot of people were thinking. And that is last year's offensive line, we thought going in we thought it was going to be their best offensive line since the 2017 line that had McGlinchey and Quentin Nelson.
Yeah.
And it obviously didn't turn out that way. We thought because of so much experience, especially at the tackle positions, and then neither one of those guys had a great game in the opener against Miami. And, they played better as the season went on, but it never really lived up to last year. But now I think when you look at the guys who are going to be out there this year, even though that there is more inexperience, obviously, I think just like the sheer talent and size and potential gives me more confidence, I think, with this year's line.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's been some guys that have been thrown into the action, obviously, and that you didn't think would have to be there. And here we are. And so now they've got all this, this experience that they may not have had otherwise, And so, I mean, in the moment, it's like, oh man, I don't know. Anthony Knapp has to step in as a true freshman. Well, now he's got 27 starts and 1,500 career snaps under his belt. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So you get to a point where, all right, well, these guys had to step in. Sullivan Absher's got 5 starts. Joe Otting has 6 starts. Gerby Lambert has so like these guys all have a bunch of starts under their belt now. And so what used to be also a situation where guys didn't have a lot of experience, now there's a bunch of experience coming back. So
Joe says if the line can hold their position, they shouldn't get rolled up on by other people behind it. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't disagree. I don't agree with that. I understand where he's coming from, but what if you're just blocking the crap out of a guy and you get him 5 yards downfield and all of a sudden a tackle happens behind you and you get rolled up on?
Right. And again, if you're getting rolled up from behind, that's not something you can control.
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, what Joe is saying, like, if you've got a wall of offensive linemen, and you've got a beautiful pocket and things like that,
right,
then you shouldn't get rolled up on. But that's not realistic either.
Right.
Like,
you're not going to completely dominate and just build an impenetrable wall on every play. That's just not going to happen.
And run blocking
isn't like that. Going to have some good players too.
Yeah, right. Not on this cupcake schedule. Come on. What are you talking about? Playing a bunch of JV teams.
Marcus wants to know if the strength and conditioning staff changes have been solidified. If so, who remains or what is outstanding for spring?
Well, they put out a tweet not that long ago with all of the additions to the Notre Dame football staff, and I believe a bunch of those guys were like assistant strength and conditioning coaches and things like that. Guys that generally aren't around for a bunch of years. It's a lower level position, but you come in, you work your way up, that kind of a deal. So I would think that at this point we are a week away basically from spring ball starting. They're all set with where they're going to be, and it's a bunch of names that you've never heard of, and they work behind the scenes and get things accomplished. So
Yeah.
I think they're pretty set.
Yeah. I know they were interviewing a lot of guys a
Yeah.
couple of weeks ago. There were a lot of interviews being done. And in fact, when we were going over there for some football media, there was, some guys like kind of going in and out, get the tour and that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, they'll be fine. They've got a lot of guys on that staff, and so they'll be okay.
And there's no change at the top as far as
Right.
the strength. So I mean, it's going to be the same program with tweaks and things like that. And of course, Marcus Freeman is heavily involved in what the strength and conditioning staff is doing. And so overall, there's not going to be a change. It's just a couple of the foot soldiers are going to be a little bit different, like that kind of a thing.
Let's take another break. When we come back, more mailbag. You've still got time to get in your mailbag. We're not going to have a traditional rapid fire tonight because we actually thought the show was ending a little bit earlier than what it's actually going to end. So we were just going to have an extended mailbag and not necessarily rapid fire. So now it is definitely extended mailbag. So we've got some more room in the second hour for more mailbag questions, whether it's football, basketball, whatever it happens to be. You can slip them in and we will answer them because we are going until 6:40 tonight. So we'll take a break. More mailbag questions coming up next. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Oh, Mailbag tonight with Vince D'Addario. I'm Sean Stiers as we roll along on the show this evening. Glad to have you with us. There's an NFL question in here, and
Ooh.
we didn't have a chance to talk about Daniel Jones. So we can talk about
Oh,
that as well. Joseph asking thoughts, information as to why the Ravens backed out of the Max Crosby trade. I mean, it basically came down to the fact they knew that he had some surgery on his meniscus, but I think it was more severe than they originally thought. And from all the stuff that I heard and listened to today, they consulted with like 4 different team physicians looking at
wow.
the x-rays and the scans and all this different stuff on Crosby. And it's a pretty steep price to pay for, 2 first-round picks for a guy who's injured. So they backed out and they went out and got Trey Hendrickson, signed him as a free agent from the Bengals today. So they went to plan B. They didn't have to give up any draft picks to get him.
I would say that this deal not going through has absolutely screwed up any plans that the Ravens and the Raiders had with their offseason plans. Like, it was all hinging on this trade.
Yeah.
And now all these deals that they had, ready to go, ready to be signed, ready to be finalized are all in limbo now. And you got all these guys that were going to go to Las Vegas, and you got, all these different things that were going to happen. And now they're all just kind of twiddling their thumbs like, well, am I actually going to Las Vegas? Like, is this actually happening? Like, everything's on hold.
And other teams making their plans
Sure.
as well. But, like the Cowboys were one of the teams who were originally interested in Max Crosby. And so then the trade goes through to the Ravens. So they go out and they sign Rashawn Gary from the Packers. And, like what's I think the most interesting part about that is apparently the Cowboys team physician was one of the 4 physicians that the Ravens consulted, so like he's very well aware of the medicals, but I think it could have happened to anybody that, like they could have committed those draft picks and to make a deal like that. And then the physical comes back and it doesn't look anything like what you think it is going to look like. Apparently there is a lack of cartilage in that knee. And that's the biggest concern.
I see.
Kind of the biggest red flag that went off.
So it could be like a nagging thing because you might have some bone on bone situation in there. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's tough.
Christopher says you really think they don't have a plan B. Which team are we talking about? Because the Ravens already went with their plan B by making the move to go out and sign a Hendrickson. The Raiders, I don't know what their plan B could be, because now, because of this, they're not going to get 2 first-round picks from anyone for Max Crosby.
No way. Yeah.
The
price just went way down. And if you're a team that is looking for, because I think there's plenty of teams out there that would be willing to take a chance on Max Crosby, but they're not going to take a chance on him for 2 first-round picks.
No.
Right. So that's the thing. And I think you may have opened up the window to some more teams, because the price is lower. Mm-hmm. You're just not going to get what you were going to get. And that's the biggest issue for the Raiders right now.
You'd probably be lucky to get like a second and a third.
Yeah.
At this point, as opposed to the 2 first-round picks they were going to get from the Ravens. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big difference in what the Raiders thought they were going to get. Colts, in the meantime, like this kind of came out of nowhere, because just a couple of days ago, Daniel Jones was talking about he wanted $50 million a year after the Colts had apparently made an offer, and then bada bing, bada boom, $88 million contract that he has come to terms with the Colts today can be worth up to $100 million with different incentives, and he's going to get $50 million fully guaranteed out of this whole deal.
I mean, I guess the Colts have made a decision and they're all in. I don't know that it's the right choice, although he's kind of having a bit of a resurgence with Indianapolis, after the debacle that was New York. He's got talent.
They were 8-2 before he got hurt last year.
Yeah, no, they were on a roll. They were absolutely on a roll. And so if they can recreate that, then this is a good deal. I mean, that's the best way I can say it. If they can recreate that, this is a good deal, because good quarterbacks are hard to find. I mean, let's be honest. And it's not like you're going to find them in the draft this year. So I think that if they're sold on him as their quarterback, then awesome. I wonder what they do with Richardson. And obviously they have Riley Leonard on the roster as well. Obviously, Phillip Rivers isn't going to be back. But, are those your three that you're going to go with? And have you completely given up on Richardson at this point? I don't know. I wasn't happy with that draft pick in the first place. So I think Riley Leonard's a hell of a backup.
I do too. And my answer would be yes, as far as Richardson goes. But, I think he's, they knew that he was a project coming out of college, and it just didn't work, and too many injuries. And
I'll never forget the whole tapping out thing. Like, dude, you're a quarterback. You don't tap out of a game like that. That pretty much soured me as far as being a Richardson fan and that whole mess. Like, that's a red flag.
Pat McAfee is the biggest, Colts rooter there. He still lives in Indianapolis and does the show. And he is also the biggest pro player. He doesn't criticize players and coaches very often. He is always very pro player, pro coach, says things, affirmative. He was ripping Richardson for that whole tap out thing when that happened a couple of years ago.
That's a tough look. That's a tough look. Like if you're injured, that's one thing. He wasn't injured. What are you doing? It makes no sense to me. But I think Daniel Jones, it seemed to work in Indianapolis. And so they seem to think it's going to work. And so, party on. And I think that you stick with Riley Leonard as your backup. And I think that you're in pretty good shape. Yeah.
That's the way I would go.
Honestly, they should have went with Riley Leonard instead of signing Phillip Rivers. That whole thing. And I get it.
They were still trying to make the playoff. They didn't want to go the developmental route. So I get it from that aspect, but obviously it just game after game. And I think that first game gave them some hope because they were so competitive. I believe it was against Seattle was his first game, and they were, right in that thing. And it just
didn't work. It just didn't work. And I give a lot of respect to Phillip Rivers for coming back and giving that a shot and everything he's got going on in his life, and just be like, no, I'll come back and be an NFL quarterback. Why not? So I give him a lot of credit for that. I don't know if it was the right decision, but I understand why they did it. I do.
Yeah. Kevin says over under 3 guys who leave the men's basketball team.
So obviously not including the guys that just walked for senior night. So those are 3 guys that are obviously going to leave.
Guys with eligibility.
I
assume he's talking portal, So.
Yeah. I'm going to say under. I think that he was playing guys towards the end enough that they can see a role for themselves moving forward. If Marcus Burton happens to leave, that could open the floodgates of other guys leaving. I'm hoping that he stays, and so I'm going to operate with that in mind, and I'll say that he sticks around. So I think the majority of the guys will also stick around. So I'll be positive, and I'll say under.
I'm thinking that as well. I think that, Harrelson got honorable mention, all ACC. He, ultimately from a statistical standpoint, and I think from a developmental standpoint, had a nice year. Obviously, Serta had a nice year. Mm-hmm. And then I think that I do think that they didn't feel like a completely fractured team. They were still in it, and they were still playing even when, so many things did seem lost at the end of the year. That said, you just can never tell what each guy is thinking when it comes to the portal. But I think that I will go under as well. I think that they are going to keep a core of these guys around. I think that there is going to be, an investment in the roster itself and a priority to go out and add a couple strategic, guys from the transfer portal. They really need a big, so that's a premium position when it comes to the kind of money that you've got to pay. And so that's going to be the one that they have to go out and make the biggest investment. And I know it's not easy, but I think that they'll keep it. I think that they'll largely keep it together. So I will say under as well.
So going into year 4 of Micah Shrewsbury of a 7-year deal, and you had a pretty successful freshman class, I think, this year. And then you have this incoming freshman class, that's coming, and there's some talent there. And, if you can get Marcus Burton back and Harrelson stays and, all Serta and all of that, I think you've got a decent roster. Okay. I think you've got a roster that can compete in the ACC. I'm not saying they're going to win it or anything like that. I think you can compete in the ACC. Is this like, how do you view year 4 for Micah Shrewsbury as far as what the results end up being? Like, is this, a quote unquote make or break season for him? Like,
Honestly, I think it has to be. I think
Yeah.
that in the day and age that we're in, year 4 has to be make or break for any coach.
yeah,
Really.
it's his roster, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's everybody on here's here because of him.
Yeah, but, because again, you're going into year 4 now. So
Yeah.
you've got multiple recruiting cycles and the transfer portal. Like his initial class now is going into their senior year, and that obviously includes his son, and he's got another son coming in. So like where you are right now, you should have laid the groundwork. And so now you've got a lot of experience, again, assuming they're all coming back. I think it has to be make or break. I think that it has to be like you have to be in the NCAA tournament in year 4. You haven't sniffed it in the first 3 years, and I think that you've got to be there in year 4 now.
Yeah, top half of the ACC, I think, is an absolute must. I think if you can do that, then you're probably going to sneak your way in. If you're a top 8 team or so in the ACC, I think if you can do that, maybe win a game in the ACC tournament, like that kind of a thing, I think you've got a shot at making the the tournament. I just, number one, you've got to defend your home floor. They got to do a better job of defending their home floor. Going to a men's game right now, it's not the same as going to a women's game. You know what I mean? It's just not.
It's a different environment.
It is, man. You've got to get your home floor advantage back. That's number one priority. If you can do that, then you can be successful in the ACC, And then, what are they going to do with their non-conference? We'll see, what tournament are they going to be in, blah, blah, blah. But they're going to have some options roster-wise if they can keep this thing together moving forward. They are going to have some options.
Oh, you're right about the like the home court, and you really need to kind of go out and sort of continue to rally the troops in terms of the student section and get that student section, keep them interested, keep them involved, to give yourself a home court advantage over there. You really, you've got to have that. You've got to create something. And I know it's tough, when you're not winning games, but
sure,
like you said, protect the home court. And then you go out, if you can protect the home court and you win far more games at home than you lose on the road, and you even go a little bit above 500 on the road, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And the Joyce Center used to rock back in 2015, 2016, when and granted, the team was good, but they were a fun team to follow. They were a fun team to root for because it was like a, bring your lunch pail kind of team, that kind of stuff. That place was rocking. Those games were so much fun to go to. You need to get back to that. You need to get back to that. That's number one priority.
Absolutely. We're going to take our last break, and then we've got more mailbag coming up. We've got a women's basketball question. We've got some Notre Dame football. We'll touch on those and a little bit more. Still time to slip a question or two in if you'd like in the mailbag. If you were jumping in right now, Irish Breakdown YouTube channel or the Sports Radio WSBT YouTube channel as well. With Vince D'Addario, Sean Steiners, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Winding down Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Let's see if I could do my math. We've still got around 20 minutes or so to go here, Vince.
It's an unexpected, luxury is what that is.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to call it.
That's one way to put it. An unexpected luxury. That's right. Just like the unexpected luxury of American baseball fans getting to watch Italy and Mexico with something on the line tonight. Who knew that game would matter tonight? And now it will.
Let me ask you this about unexpected, wonderful things.
Okay.
Are Thursday and Friday what were initially planned, or has that changed as well?
They are. I have double checked that. And
okay.
Honestly, if we got in here after I have already been told that they are going to stay the same, if it had changed, we might have just bailed. So next couple nights, we've got Big Ten basketball coming up Thursday and Friday. So we'll be a little bit shorter shows the next two nights. Tonight, we've got Notre Dame hockey against Michigan. Tyler Reedy will have the call. Big Ten tournament game up in Ann Arbor tonight. Pregame at 6:45. So that's why we're going to be done a little bit early tonight. World Baseball Classic, though, if you missed us talking about it in the first hour, Team USA lost to Italy last night. And so Italy plays Mexico tonight. And here's what you need to know. The game is going to be on FS1, Mexico and Italy. And here's what's on the line for the USA. If Italy wins, Team USA advances to the quarterfinals. Also, though, if Mexico lose it, or if Mexico wins, they need to score at least 5 runs. If that happens, then Team USA would also advance. So you need either Italy to win or Mexico to score at least 5 runs and win. And either of those two things would get the USA in. If Mexico wins and they only score 4 runs, I did what you did.
See?
Team USA is done. So,
well, and it's interesting because I think there's scenarios in there where Team USA could win the pool, and then obviously scenarios where they could get second place, and then obviously a scenario where they're in third and they're out. So like all of the above are all on the line, and Team USA literally has nothing they can say about it. They're just watching in their hotel rooms.
Yep. So Italy, Mexico, 7:00 tonight on FS1. That's on the line. So you need Italy to win or Mexico to win and score 5 runs. So again, if Mexico just gets to 5 runs, like the sooner Mexico gets to 5 runs,
the sooner you know,
then because then the outcome doesn't matter at that point.
Which is so
Mexico
weird.
Scores 5 runs.
It is so weird. They could score a 5 spot in like the first couple innings and Team USA could shut it off and go to bed.
Right.
Kind
of bizarre, but
I know.
Joseph wants to know if I think women's basketball selection committee will try to engineer a TCU versus Notre Dame matchup in a Sweet 16. Well, it would happen before the Sweet 16 potentially, because as of right now, all the projections have TCU as a 3 seed and Notre Dame as a 6 seed. So it would either happen like in the second round, like they could actually engineer, because 3s and 6s go together in those first 2 rounds. That's a second round matchup. So there's a potential that they could send Notre Dame to Fort Worth, and potentially you'd have Notre Dame and Hannah Hidalgo and company against TCU and Olivia Miles and company in the second round in a 3-6 matchup. I would not be shocked. I've seen that.
Either.
I've seen it as one of the projections. Also, I think the most recent projection, Ohio State is also a projected 3 seed, and they were in Columbus, Ohio, obviously, and they are closer. So the more recent projections have had Notre Dame going there because it would be a closer trip. Michigan is also a projected 3 seed. Now, they played in the regular season, which doesn't rule anything out, but I haven't seen Notre Dame projected to go to Ann Arbor. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see where Notre Dame does end up going, if they do indeed end up being a 6 seed, which, based on everything, like the net ranking and the whole thing, it looks like that's probably what they're going to be. But they're going to be some different options out there for the selection committee. I wouldn't put it past them. Wouldn't put it past them
But
at
that's
all.
on Sunday, right? It's does it
Sunday
follow?
night at 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it
Men's
follows
selection is at 6.
Okay.
And then the women's is at 8:00 on ESPN.
Yeah, I don't care about the men this year, so I'll be watching the women's one at 8:00 and see where you're headed. That's always got to be kind of a weird situation for people that are part of the traveling party. Like you're packing your bags and you don't know what you're bringing. You bringing shorts? You bringing jeans? What are you bringing?
Exactly.
And
now some of the smaller women's conference tournaments are still doing their tournaments this week. So that's the reason they schedule it obviously is so women, like ESPN can get the inventory last week and show all those conference tournaments. And now this week it's all the men's tournaments, but some of these smaller women's tournaments are going on. So that's obviously why, they couldn't have done the selection show a week earlier. Now, I still think that you could probably have it maybe, like Sunday afternoon instead of 8:00 Sunday night, because if you're interested in the women's tournament, are you really going to watch the Big Ten men's championship game as the last game? Does that really matter at that point? Feels like you could do it earlier, but hey,
here we are.
Who are we?
And when would you guys leave? Tuesday? Probably.
Just depends on when and where they play.
Yeah. Good point.
Typically, because the men obviously start on Thursday, the women will start on Friday.
Oh,
so it's Friday, Sunday, Saturday, Monday.
Forgot it was staggered.
Yeah. So if they play on Friday, we would probably leave Wednesday sometime. But if they played Saturday, it would probably be Thursday.
Okay. Yeah. I forgot they staggered the first.
Seems like that's how it's
weekend.
Going.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different again because of TV purposes. So they try to get some of their own windows and all that different kind of stuff. Tommy said, I just found that out yesterday. Did either of us know the Weather Channel has its own or has access to a camera on top of the Golden Dome at Notre Dame? I did not.
I don't. Are you sure? Because
I'm not.
I don't know that that's accurate because I don't know where you would put it. If I'm being honest, I know that there's one on top of the library. I know, the Hesburgh Library. I know there's one up there. I don't know. I mean, maybe there is, but I just don't know where you would put it. You're not strapping a camera to the top of Mary at the top. I don't see that being the case.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's attached to the building itself, like below the Golden Dome part. Maybe, I don't know. That's interesting, Tommy. I'll have to check that out.
Yep, I had no clue. Joe asking, is the expectation at least one win for the ladies? I would say yes.
Yeah, I would think
at least. Yeah.
I think 2 wins would be right around where I would think that they could end up, and I think, I don't want to say this in a negative way, but I think if they can get to the Sweet 16, I think that's a very positive for this season. If you can make it to the Sweet 16, I think you can look at the season as like, okay, this was successful. What do you think?
No, I absolutely
think
that. I think that that's a very fair way to look at it, especially, considering some of the ups and downs.
Yeah.
And I've actually, and looking for different things. It's like some of the old articles and social media posts that some other people in the media have posted, like I've come across some of those, and it was not that long ago that there were a lot of people on this beat here in this market that had completely written them off.
Yeah.
And
not here.
That's right.
Not here.
And listen, I think, I've been as honest as possible about it. I've just always felt like they have a legit National Player of the Year candidate, and that was going to be a major factor for them.
Yeah.
And obviously things coming together and getting back KK Bransford, who is pretty much their ultimate glue player, that has been a big factor for them as well. But it's like said all along, if they got to 10 wins in the ACC, that they were going to be fine. They got to 12 in the regular season. They obviously won a couple games in the ACC tournament, and they are sitting in really good shape right now. Again, it's like there's a difference between being a team that probably has legitimate chance to win a national championship and being an NCAA tournament team that at the very least has a legitimate chance to get to the Sweet 16, if not maybe even an Elite 8, depending on what some of the matchups and things like that look like. And if you look at the bracket, if you're a 6 seed, you're playing an 11 seed in the first round. And then in the second round, you're playing either a 3 seed or a 14 seed.
Yeah.
So like those seeds, like the difference between I think a 3 and a 6 is not that great. Just like the difference really between a 4 and a 5 is not that great. And they went to Oklahoma just, what's that been, 3 or 4 years ago, I guess, as a 5 seed, beat Oklahoma in Oklahoma, got to the Sweet 16, and then barely lost in the Sweet 16 the next week. So, yeah, I think it's a team that's got, especially the way they're playing right now, they've shown that they can beat some legit teams and play with some legit teams. So I think they've got every expectation that they can, at a minimum, get to the Sweet 16. Mark asks, when I'm on the road for women's basketball, do I bring on my own radio gear for broadcast, or do you use locally supplied gear? Funny you asked that. Yeah, I take all my own. Now, there are some other radio crews that just go on the road and they actually like they don't take any of their own stuff. They lease stuff on the road from like local places, and they'll have a producer and an engineer, producer/engineer come in, set everything up for them. They don't have to worry about any of that stuff. But yeah, I take all my own gear and lug it around all over the country.
Yeah,
and,
you do.
And then, because we're doing the radio show and stuff like that on the road, I take even extra gear with me so we can can do that. So I can set up in the hotel room. Joe says, I heard the wide receiver room is stacked. Who are your 3 starters?
Oh, my goodness. I think that Faison is going to start. I think that Greathouse is going to start. And then I think one of the Ohio State kids is going to start. And I should know all of their names by now, but I don't, and I apologize. But those are the 3 guys I think are going to start.
Greathouse, Faison. And then you said one of the. I'm sorry, I was one of the
Ohio State guys.
Yeah. And I would probably lean toward Porter as like the X receiver. Like 6'4", with the size on the outside. That'd probably be in the direction that I would lean right now. I wouldn't rule out Micah Gilbert though. To compete for that as well. But I would definitely go. I think you've got to go Faison and Greathouse, and then there's going to be a pretty good competition after that.
Yeah, and I think also, the rotation, if you go too deep at all 3 positions, I think the rotation is going to be very interesting to see, who jumps in there. I think that's where the competition actually lies. I mean, at the end of the day, does it matter who actually starts, who's actually out there first? I mean, it depends on the personnel grouping and all of those things. But I think the competition for the top 6 is going to be legit, because I think there's a bunch of legit candidates to be in that top 6.
No, absolutely. And you've got, a lot of pretty good young talent in that group as well. Burris had some flashes last year. Do we continue to see him make some strides, like this spring and maybe put himself into a situation where he gets more playing time? Tommy says, if I were to tell you Boubacar Traore will have double-digit regular season sacks this year, the ends opposite him will have at least blank sacks. So Boubacar is going to have double-digit sacks.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for the defensive ends playing opposite of him in terms of the sacks?
I think you could be in the upper single digits. So like 7 to 9. I think that's a legitimate combo number for however many ends are going to be on the other side. I mean, I wanted to say maybe double digits, but I didn't want to be too excitable about where they end up. But I think that's realistic. But to keep it toned down, I'll say high single digits as a combination out there.
Yeah, I think if he has double digits, I'd put it at 7 or 8. So I guess that's high single digits would kind of be what you're going with there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that would kind of be, like when you look at last year, Traore had 6.5 sacks, and then Burnham and Young combined for 5 sacks.
Mm-hmm.
So like they were. So again, if you ratchet that up a little bit for both of them, I think that's probably what you're looking at. Bubakar's 10, 10, 11, and then the other guy is going to, combine for around 7 or 8 on the other side. I think that'd be a pretty good number for both of them.
Yeah, and I think that if things go the way that we think that they may go, teams are going to have to pick their poison. Are you focusing on the defensive ends? Are you focusing on the defensive tackles? What is your focus as an offensive line? Are you going to max protect at times? What does that look like to prevent that pass rush from getting home and what that looks like? I think there's going to be a pick your poison situation going on there.
Joe is asking what the team total will be this year. He is saying 47. Chris is saying 30. It was 34 last year. So is it going to be greater? Is it going to be less? And I mean, honestly, that's part of what the question is between Partridge and bringing in like Brew and Gray on this defensive line. What is that going to look like? Are they actually going to elevate? Because I think the philosophy that Chris Ash has shown is he wants to get pressure with that front four as much as possible and not dial up a lot of pressures. So are they going to be able to get that true rush with those guys up front? I still think that it's kind of going to be in that mid-30s range. I don't know if it's going to be a huge number over 40. What do you think?
Yeah, 40 is a big number. I think they'll get the linebackers involved as they generally do, and it could be up in that neighborhood, upper 30s, maybe low 40s. I think that's definitely a possibility. I mean, I think adding in the secondary also is key here, right? Because you hear the
even the linebackers,
sacks,
like they're all part of it as well.
They're all part of it. I mean, I was trying to Google like the most team sacks that Notre Dame has ever had, and I can't find it because it keeps coming up with the single season, like individual stuff. I would be interested to see what that number is and to see if they can't challenge that this year. You would hope so. I think 40 is a nice round number that I feel comfortable sticking with.
Okay.
Especially, are we talking regular season? Obviously they had 34 in the regular season, right? This past year. So
True.
They had no postseason games, and you figure you're going to add some in the postseason as well. So, regular season, they could be south of 40, and I'd be okay with that too.
Let me look at. Let me see if I can find 2 years ago what the numbers were from a couple of years ago. That's a good question, actually. Because it was 34 last year. Now, obviously, you had a different defensive coordinator the year before, but let me see here. What is the number? 40 is what they had when they got to the championship game a couple of years ago. So, from a percentage standpoint, they actually did better with Chris Ash in 12 games. When you break it all down. Joe says he's also thinking of the schedule. Okay.
No, that's fair.
Expectations for Notre Dame football. National championship game. I mean,
how can that not be the expectation? And not just winning it like that. My expectation is that they go win a national championship. There's too much hype around this team. There's too much talent on this roster. I don't know how you can't think that that's the goal right now.
I concur. Stymie wants to know if I'm going to be watching the IndyCar Grand Prix around Jerry World this weekend. Jerry hosting. That'd be a no.
Yeah, I don't see you
even know that existed.
Watching the open wheel. They publicized it mercilessly during the baseball game yesterday. Like every commercial break, they were talking
a Fox
about
thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they kept saying, Jerry's World and the racing, and I'm like, how? Like, it's just going to be around the stadium because you can't really have a race in the stadium. It's not that big. So I don't know how Jerry's hosting it, but whatever.
So I was sent a screenshot, and this is a It says launch live webcam. Webcam from
yeah,
the Dome.
I
to
found
see-
it.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Actually, here. Should I share my screen?
Sure,
Let's see
go
here.
ahead.
Let's see.
But
here.
this is from the Notre Dame website. That doesn't
Yes.
necessarily mean it's a
From like the Weather Channel.
yeah.
Yeah, here we go. Right here. There it is. It's called the Dome Cam.
Interesting.
So it just shows, like, I don't believe, because you can kind of see at the bottom, like if you kind of zoom, you can, I don't think it's on the actual dome itself. I think it's probably on the building just below the dome. But either way, it's a cool view of campus, right there on the main
for
quad.
sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
So Tommy was right. I will give Tommy the props.
There's
of being
definitely
correct.
something, but I mean, those cameras, I mean, they're pretty small these days.
That is true.
Like,
that's a good point.
You can have some pretty small ones up there.
Yeah. So
And
it's hard to tell.
I'm sure that they use some of those, like in the winter when you see some of those cool photos when there's snow and stuff outside, and then like you get the snow blanketed campus and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
now that I know this is here, it might be a fun thing to go check out every now and again. And all I did was Google cam on the dome or cam on, something like that, and it came up right away. So obviously open to the public.
all right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. All right, we've got Notre Dame hockey coming up next. Again, the Fighting Irish, who have been the pros of overtime. They've won 3 straight games in overtime, and they had an overtime tie against Penn State. Before that, they are taking on Michigan in the Big Ten tournament tonight. And like Vince said, need a little bit of an upset if they're going to keep playing. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully things go well. Tyler Reedy is going to have the call from up there in Ann Arbor. In the meantime, Vince and I will be back tomorrow. I think it's going to be an all rapid fire show tomorrow, especially since we didn't have any rapid fire tonight.
Yeah.
Just all mailbag tonight.
Let's do it.
All right. You giving me some questions for tomorrow?
I'll see what I can do. I can come up with something, and it might not be good, but I can throw some stuff into the hopper.
All right. We'll see what we can do then. So we've got that coming up tomorrow, and then we'll have a shortened show Friday as well, because we've got Big Ten men's basketball tournament coming up the next 2 nights down in, I think they're in Indy, aren't they? I know the women's tournament was in Indy. I think the men's
for Big Ten.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're always in Indy. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. Vince, enjoyed it as always. I will talk to you later, sir. Appreciate all the questions in the mailbag tonight. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.